Arch Advocate Show. Ooh, we got some response off of yesterday's show about the downfall of Jordan B Peterson. Must have hit her pretty close to the mark to get her all riled up there, hey kid? Listen, at no point during yesterday's show did I say it was a bad thing for people to make money. Here's the thing, I was making that point because I have my little platform here. Right, and we're gonna get into that because there's some people that wrote in that wanted to talk about my numbers or my studio or lack thereof of studio. We're gonna get into that and to show just how little character you would have to like insult somebody who's working. You know what I mean? Who's working on something, right? Like that's just I didn't actually want to talk about this at all, but everything that when people wrote in. To respond to this, everything that was written, with maybe the exception of like one thing, was like confirmation of exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like you people are acting like a cult. This is very cult-like behavior. This is the whole point. It's just like, you know, when you see leftists, right? If the Young Turks put out some nonsense, like I was saying, everything, you go onto the Young Turks YouTube page, everything, probably 90% of every one of their titles is something that denotes racism. Like to the Young Turks, everything is racist, right? But when you actually sit down, like if Ben Shapiro sits down with Cenk, or if somebody else sits down, it's like, well, is everything racist? Is that really what's going on? And then you get people to slow down a little bit, right? And every great once in a while, people will come to their senses and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess that's not exactly truth. But most people will defend, they'll defend a position that has been proven wrong. It's just like, you know, when 2 years ago people were saying like, oh, there's a wage gap. We got to fix the wage gap. Women are getting paid 76 cents for every dollar that a man makes. And they were going around saying that because it's like, look at the statistics. Look at 76 cents per dollar, right? And then then smart people came in and said, well, that is a problem. Let's diagnose the problem. Let's figure out what's causing this. Because if we're going to fix it, we're going to need to know how it works. And when they did the studies, they said, oh, okay, here's what's going on. Men tend to go into things like, you know, oil rigging and engineering, and, you know, they take more dangerous jobs, and then, you know, women leave the workplace, and that, you know, skews the numbers. When, you know, women get pregnant and have babies and they leave the workplace, so that kind of corrupts the numbers. Right? Because it looks like, you know, these women are going unemployed and not making anything. It's like, no, they made a choice. A good one, a good choice. And now there's no money for them, right? They're not producing an income anymore, and that skews the numbers. And so after all that study was done, it was like, oh no, yes, it's true. Women, you know, at the end of a life, right? If you take an 80-year-old man and an 80-year-old woman and say, well, how much money did you make? Right? It's going to be about 76 cents to $1, right? But there's all the factors that go into it. And then when you explain this to people, they're like, well, that's just because of patriarchy, right? And it's like, no. There's reasons. Yes, it's 76 to $1, but there's facts. There's things that you can observe, right? And people they twist their head and they squinch up their lips and they're like, oh, no, it's because of the patriarchy. It's like, okay, well then can we go to the patriarchy? What's their address? Do you have their phone number? Can we call them and see if we can get them to be more reasonable? Oh, that's right, they're not a person. They're not even an actual group of people like the Ku Klux Klan or the elusive Illuminati or whoever, you know what I mean? It's like, this is just some made-up enemy of yours that you get to just lump all of your garbage onto. It's like global warming. Oh, it's just global warming. It's like, what? Excuse me? Global warming? Right? So, in this response, this is exactly what I was talking about. Now, in yesterday's podcast, and by the way, if you're listening on the podcast and not watching it on the YouTube, I have Jordan Peterson's book right behind me. Here, let me grab it here. For those of you watching on YouTube, you see, I paid my pound of flesh, all right? I've given the man my money, and I don't regret it. And I made it abundantly clear yesterday, in yesterday's episode, you twats. I made it abundantly clear that I respect the man's work and I think that it's good. I think you should buy his book. I think that you should read it and practice everything in it. I think that his work on like how it is, I made this clear yesterday. How did you miss this part? All these weird, like, okay, let me read some of these. Just let me read some of these things to you. Here's, and this is, I'm reading them off of the YouTube comments, so it's kind of like in reverse order. You know, last comment first. Last comment, he's an atheist. That's all you need to know. End quote. It's okay. I don't know what you want me to do with that. Is he an atheist? Did he say that? Where do you have some sort of? I'm open. Oh, and by the way, to all you chumps, listen. You are all welcome to come on the show and argue with me. I say that very regularly on the show because I can tell most of you people have never tuned into the show, whatever. You are more than welcome. If you have a Skype account, you are more than welcome to come onto this show and we can have a talk, right? Like adults. But you people come on and you throw out these one-liners. It's like, okay, number one, you millennials have entirely too much time on your hands. You're just talking trash to some stranger on the internet. Like, did I interrupt your game of Call of Duty? I mean, this must have taken a lot. You know what I mean? Here's another thing. This is from some guy. It says, pretty much every event JP does is available to watch for free on YouTube by everyone. Yes, I know how YouTube works and that YouTube is free. Thank you for pointing that out there, Monkey Sour. His audiences are not exclusively young men at all. Okay, I never said anything about that in yesterday's podcast about the gender of his audience. And any young man who could benefit from his message can hear it for free online. Yes, I have the internet. Right? I know how the internet works. I know that it's free. Thank you for pointing that out. No PayPal, no subscription, no fees, free. I don't understand what your point is, sir. Are you addressing something that I said yesterday in this thing? Are you addressing the fact that I brought up him charging people money to shake his hand? Did you take that and connect it to, hey, let me point out to this stranger on the internet that maybe he doesn't know that the internet is free, that you can watch YouTube for free. Okay, thank you, sir, cult. Thank you, cult. Like, okay, if you go to a Jordan Peterson event and they start serving Kool-Aid, don't drink it, pal. All right, it's danger. It's danger. Here's Schmitty the Kid. He says, I think someone has been watching too many Owen rants on Jordan B Peterson. Yes, I have. That is actually correct. And I don't know, Schmitty, if you're using that as a jab or if you're pointing out the blatantly obvious. Yes. What he's referring to here is Owen Benjamin. Now, Owen Benjamin has said some things that I think are over the top, I think are incorrect, but for the most part, I appreciate that man's work. And had it not been for Owen Benjamin pointing out a few things I would have been oblivious to. I had no idea this guy was charging hundreds of dollars to go up and shake his hand at the end of an event. I'd like to find out how much it costs to go to these events. Is it hundreds of dollars, right? Like Stefan Molyneux does? It's like, if you want to go to a Stefan Molyneux event, it's like $400, which again, I have no problem with. I don't have a problem with that if it's Stefan Molyneux who's standing there saying, hey, I'm an atheist, everybody. Hey, everybody, I'm an atheist. I'm not gonna stand up here and try to encourage you to read the Bible. Do you understand the difference? The minute if Stefan Molyneux converts, if he does an episode today called The Truth About Me Converting to Christianity, and he starts saying, listen guys, I had it wrong the old time. I had an encounter last night. I met Jesus Christ. You know what? I'm just going to follow him for the rest of my life. And from now on, I'm just going to be talking about Jesus. I'll be like, cool. But if he starts doing his shows and charging $400 to get in, I'm going to be against that. That's the point I made yesterday, dummy. That's why I was making the comparison with Anthony Robbins. It's like, dude, you can charge as much money as you want, and good for you. Tai Lopez, you're making millions and millions of dollars off of people who think like poor people, that they think if they just give you money, then they themselves will become rich, right? Like, if you want to do that, it's not against the law. And it's like the old adage says, there's a sucker, or actually it was it P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every minute. That's true. That's how Tai Lopez makes his money, because there's a sucker born every minute, and there's no law against commodifying the stupid. I don't have a problem, I have a problem with it, but it's like, it's not a very big problem. If you give your money to Tai Lopez, that's kind of like, that's on you. You're stupid. It's like, for example, I've purchased scratcher tickets before, right? Probably everybody has. But the fact is that the lottery is a taxation system for the stupid. Do you understand that? I've played the lottery, and I knew going into it, like, okay, this is stupid. I'm just giving my money to the state of California, in my case. But don't get it twisted. It is the point. Like, there's a sucker born every minute, and that's why Tai Lopez is rich. And I don't have a problem with Tai Lopez being rich. I don't want to see him poor, right? I would like to see his message change a little bit, but I don't want to see the guy poor. I never said anything about Jordan Peterson's money, you dumbasses. And Owen Benjamin, yeah, listen, he has said some things about Owen Benjamin, he said some things about Jordan Peterson, where it was like, I don't know if you can, he was alluding to, like, 2 days ago, he was alluding to Jordan Peterson being gay. And he was making, like, it was a joke that kind of stemmed from his Bert Kreischer jokes. Excuse me one second. And I saw what he was doing, but I don't particularly like that. I don't care for that. I see what he was doing. But, the fact that he is being repped by a CAA reps movie stars and television stars. That's who they represent. That's who represents Jordan B. Peterson. Is he in the movies? Is he on TV? And we're gonna get to that, because somebody wrote in about that. We're gonna get to that. If it wasn't for Owen Benjamin, I wouldn't have known, because although I did know who CAA was, I had no idea he was being repped by them. And if you think that's insignificant, here, let me get there. Here's another one. Okay, now this is hilarious. This is from Macintosh16 on the YouTube video. How about spending all that money you're making on filling those shelves? He's referring to the empty shelves behind here. Or perhaps your 253 subscribers can donate. Oh, okay. All right. So I see what you did there. So I podcast every day, 5 days a week, and I have done so now for almost a year. Here in about 2 weeks, it'll be a year. And lo, I only have 253 subscribers on YouTube, right? So clearly, I'm doing something wrong. Can we all agree with that? Perhaps it's the less than high quality audio that you're hearing right now. Perhaps it's the fact that I don't have a green screen, nor can I afford a green screen, or the microphone and the setup and the lights that I will one day have. Is that what you're pointing out there, sir? Are you pointing out the fact that I don't have enough money to purchase these things, and yet I'm doing the work every day? See, the thing is here, Mr. McIntosh, is that I know a secret about work, right? That you clearly don't know. Is that when you put your mind to something and you see it through, it works. When you set out to do something, if you are persistent, right, and you learn from your mistakes, and you make corrections and you make improvements, you become successful. And success is defined many different ways, but you want to take a dig at me for doing the work. That really shows, like, yeah, you need to buy 12 rules for life, and you need to follow everything in it, because you, sir, are a low character individual. Why would you take a dig at somebody for doing work? Right? Like, that's in your character to do that. So good for you. You are a piece of shit. Let's see. Okay, here's another one. This is from Jason, and he says, how many agencies are there for intellectual psychology professors currently in the spotlight? Now, he's taking a dig at me. The fact is, there's none, right? There's lots of different agencies. There's lots of different management companies and representative like CAA. There's a lot of different ones. The point is that you are the company that you keep, right? If you look around at your 5 friends and they're all drunk people who, have a steady job but find themselves in jail over the weekend on a pretty regular basis, guess what? You're a drunk who goes to jail on a pretty regular basis. That's who you are. If your 5 closest friends are all good Christian people who are fathers and they're married to their wives and they stay married and they raise their kids and they go to work every day, guess what? I can tell you everything anybody needs to know about you. I know who you are. I can just look at your friends. That concept of like you truly are the average of your 5 closest friends, like that, there is psychology, there's science behind that. That Jordan B. Peterson could explain, right? You are who you hang out with. And Jordan Peterson hangs out with CAA, an organization that covers up pedophilia for their clients, that covers up rape for their clients. That's who's representing Jordan B. Peterson. Now, did I just say that Jordan B. Peterson is a child rapist? No, I didn't say that. I said that CAA is, and that's who's representing Jordan B. Peterson. So you want to, I asked you, Jason, how many agencies are there? Is there more than CAA? Did he have other opportunities? Did he have other people that he could go to and say, listen, I need an agent, I've got way too much work. I've got to write this book. I got to give these seminars. I don't have time to set up, events and rent out space so that people can come and hear me speak. I need representation. Did he have to go to the Hollywood representation? There's agents for everything. There's real estate agents. There's insurance agents. There's agents for nearly everything. There's agents for livestock and produce. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's agents for nearly every aspect of professional life. And he just happened to choose the one thing, the one place where it's like, oh no, this is the agency for Hollywood people who continually cover up, perform and then cover up child rape. So yeah, well done, Jason. You really got me there. Here's another one. This was the first one I got, and I thought it was particularly funny. Now remember what I said in yesterday's show. Remember that I said, I don't have a problem with them making lots of money. I don't have a problem with the fancy suits. In fact, I encourage that. And I'm pretty sure I said that on yesterday's show. Right? Remember that. The point that I made in yesterday's show was that he's getting very close to danger territory, where people start thinking, they start buying their own bullshit. And it would appear that Dr. Peterson is moving in that direction. It's still very correctable at this point. But listen to this. He says, you say he's hoarding money as if he's one of those TV evangelists. No, I didn't say he was hoarding the money. And I was not comparing him to Joel Osteen. I was pointing out that Joel Osteen is a charlatan who has hook, line, and sinker bought into his own bullshit. One of those TV evangelists looking to line donations into his pocket. No, I didn't say anything about donations, right? The money that Jordan Peterson is experiencing right now in part is me, because I bought his book, and that's how that works. You have a product, you sell it, right? Notice yesterday that I didn't bring up Rob Bell, a guy that I hate, right? A guy that's literally one of the worst influences on Christianity today. And he's up there. The reason I don't talk about him is because he's not out there preaching. He's selling books. It's like, dude, if that's what you want to do, if you want to write bullshit books and sell them, not that Peterson's book is bullshit, but if that's what you want to do, go do that. Just don't stand there up on a stage and be like, oh, listen, I know the way. Here, walk in the way. Walk in the way that I tell you. Here is the way. That's what Joel Osteen does. That's why I brought it. So anyways, let me start over here. You say he's hoarding money as if he's one of those TV evangelists looking to line donations into his pocket. Except he's not. Except I didn't say that, you dumbass. Why don't you pay attention? He goes on to say, that money isn't going into shit like private jets or fanciful spending. Did I say private jets? Did I not say that my concern was not how he's spending his money? I talked about that. I specifically addressed the fact that it's like, look, man, if you want to buy $10,000 suits, I strongly recommend that you do. If you've got the money, I strongly recommend that you go to an Italian tailor and go to the tailor shop, a place where it's like you're going to be there for 4 hours drinking and smoking cigars. Like, it's an all-day event. Like, if you've got the means to do that, I strongly recommend that you do it. I'm pretty sure that I made that point yesterday. So, the long story on YouTube. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What is this about private jets? When did I bring up private jets? He goes on to say, he's investing it into big projects like the online university. Oh, really? What else? You said big projects, plural. Name 2. Right? Other than the one that you already mentioned, the online university. Name 2. That's an old Norm Macdonald joke. Hey, there's billions of stars in the galaxy out there, and billions of galaxies. Name 2. Right? He's investing into big projects like the online university. Okay, so you've named the online university. Now, outside of that, name 2 other things that he's investing into. Oh, that's right. You're just running your mouth. That's what you're doing. He has a working prototype ready to present. Basically, all the stuff he's ever done in terms of lectures for free. Free. Okay. Yeah. Again, I did not bring up how Jordan Peterson is spending his money, nor the fact that he's making money. I brought up the fact that he's charging people money to shake his hand. The very people that he's saying that he wants to help. Here's the thing. When you are a leader, right? Some people achieve greatness, others have it thrust upon them. And I think, in Jordan's case, it's a little bit of both. Like, he worked very hard his whole life, and then all of a sudden, he's thrust into the blinding spotlight, right? But as a leader, it's like guys like Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins has made a very good living out of showing people how to use the tools that they already have. Do you understand that? Like, you have the ability to write a schedule out for yourself and set goals for yourself. Like, you have the ability to do those. Are tools that you have in your toolbox, right? There's an even deeper way of going about that, and that's actually giving people the tools, right? There's a nation of broken men, and all of which there's a nation of broken men who wrote to me yesterday on my YouTube page. You people are broken. Listen. If you want to stand out there and say, listen, there's a nation of young men and women who have no idea who they are. They have no idea why they should even go on living, right? And I'm here to help them. I'm here to tell them, like, no, like, stay away from nihilism. I'm going to give you the tools. It's like, look, if that's what you're going to do, then you're going to have to stay in that place where your hands are going to get dirty and your shoes are going to get muddy. If you want to be Tony Robbins, then go do that. If you want to go to Tony Robbins, where it's like his clientele are people who can afford to spend $500 or whatever it is that Tony Robbins charges, like, if that's your target audience, because it's like Tony Robbins his audience has the money, right? Tony Robbins is there to help people who can already do it themselves, because that's his message, right? when you stand up there and you address a broken nation, and then you start raising your rates, right, to come and see you, right? Like Owen Benjamin talks about, he's like, I will never sell tickets for more than $20 because I want people to be able to come and see me. I want people to be able to afford it. Not, listen, paying $500 to go see somebody speak for an hour or 3 hours or whatever, for most people, that's out of the question. For most people. And charging people $300 to like meet their hero, it's like, that's, okay, like that's an indication that you're buying into your own bullshit. And I don't care if you do that, like Tony Robbins does that. He's, like that's his thing. But the minute you start talking about Jesus Christ and encouraging people to read the Bible and like, hey, listen, you need to get into like the roots of your own Christianity as it goes back through your bloodline and back through Europe over the last 2,000 years. Like, you need to understand that our way of life is Christianity is the foundation of all that. When you do that, in my opinion, you are subject to a whole different set of rules and expectations. But anyways, so I replied to this knucklehead and I said, I don't recall saying anything that saying he was hoarding money, right? Because he starts off, you say this. Now watch this. Watch this. This is the problem with leftists, right? This is the problem with raising a generation of leftists. The long story, remember, I wrote this out. You say he's hoarding money as if he's one of those TV evangelists. Okay, so here's the thing. What he's doing is he's setting up this false premise that I said that he was hoarding, right? Hey, the long story. You just said that I said that he was hoarding money, and I didn't say that, so you're lying. So I called you out on it. My first reply, I said, I don't recall saying he was hoarding money, right? The thing is when you start your sentence off with, you say he's hoarding money, that means everything else that comes after that you write is based on a false premise. It means it's all bullshit. Everything that you said, the long story, is bullshit because your premise was, you say he's hoarding money. No, I didn't say that. So I wrote you and I said, I don't recall saying he was hoarding money. And this was his response. Is that really your only rebuttal? Taking one part of a phrase in order to take me out of context? No, that was the context. That was the context. You started off your sentence with, you say he's hoarding money. No, I didn't. And therefore, everything that came after, when I read that for the first time there, the long story, as soon as I got to the G in hoarding, I was like, okay, we're done here. Everything this guy is gonna say after that part is all bullshit because I know what I said, I know what I didn't say, and I didn't say anything about hoarding money. This is some weird little fantasy world that you built up in your mind based on what I said. No wonder you're stuck with making a clickbait title for 53 minutes of nonsense. What? I'm stuck with making a clickbait title? What? I don't understand what that means. What do you mean by that? Anyways, this is the problem. Is that the problem I was saying, pointing out with Jordan Peterson, is that nobody can go unaffected by wealth. Right? Wealth will change you. It can change you for the better. It can change you for the worse. Power, right? Fame, celebrity. Those things can change you for the better or for the worse, right? Sometimes a little bit of both. Who knows? But no matter what happens, like anytime you have new stimulus in your life, you are going to change. And you won't have, there's nothing you can do about that fact. What you can do is control it. And what I'm seeing is something that I've seen my whole life out of religious people. Is that once you get the money, once you get the fame, you start believing like, oh, I'm the chosen one. I'm the chosen one. There's a guy in San Diego, he used to play for the San Diego Chargers, Miles McPherson. Don't let the last name fool you. Miles McPherson was a not good football player a very long time ago. And he decided to build a church going through Calvary Chapel, and now he's got like one of the largest churches in San Diego, and probably one of the largest, well, not in the world, but it's a pretty big church. And this guy has some very weird things go on in that church. And I know this guy. Like, I've met him. He's not a good dude, right? Who's the guy Antonio Cromartie, right? Who's had like 17 children out of wedlock. He just goes around just spraying his seed all over the place and just depositing fatherless children all over America. Like, that's his thing. He had this guy up on his stage preaching about Jesus. It's like, dude, no. You're having this guy up on stage because he's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. Like, he's wonderful in his position at football. That's just one thing, dude. I could go on and on about Miles McPherson. And guess what? If you go into that church and say, listen, I don't like this. I don't like some of the things that this guy is doing. Right? I don't think this represents the kingdom of the Almighty God. I don't think he should be doing that. His people will say, the people in that church will say, the Bible says to not speak out against God's elect. And it's like, oh, okay, so this is God's elect now. Because surely that's what he believes. I'm God's elect. Look at all of these blessings I have. Look, I must be right because I've got the money and I've got the love of these thousands of people. So I'm famous, I'm rich, I'm healthy. Evidently, I am doing everything right. I'm God's elect. That's the danger. It's dangerous for him, Miles McPherson, as the individual. You might remember him as Creepy Pastor on the Jay Moore Show. When Creepy Pastor, he had the quarterback from the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson. Remember, Russell Wilson was still a virgin, and he was up on stage talking to him about that, and Miles McPherson was like, well, we want to know. We want to know. Like, he took on a really creepy tone. Like, that's who that is. If you guys remember that from a few years ago, that's who Miles McPherson is. He's Creepy Pastor. You know what I mean? And if you try to correct him or anybody that goes to that church, they'll say, oh, you can't speak out against God's elect. It says so in the Bible. It's like, well, that's a very peculiar protected position you have there. And that was a lot of P's I just said. That's very peculiar that you're protected in that way. Don't say anything about this guy. It's like, no, this is the problem. Every single one of you people that wrote in on this, it's like, you are who I was addressing. You're the reason why Jordan B. Peterson is going to turn himself into a cult leader like Miles McPherson, like the TV evangelists. You know the problem with Joel Osteen? It's not him. He's not the problem. The problem is the tens of thousands of people who sit in his church every week, who just by their very presence and by the tithes that they pay and the money that goes into Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen is walled in. He can never escape. Joel Osteen cannot see it any other way than I am God's elect. I have hundreds of millions of dollars. I have a private jet. I've got the love of tens of thousands of people. There is no possible way for Joel Osteen to see it any other way, because the people who surround him will never say, hey bro, perhaps having a giant globe behind you as opposed to like a giant cross or something, right? Perhaps that's not a very good look. Perhaps standing up there and saying like the reason why you have nice suits and a nice home and a nice building is because God, you figured out how to get God to love you more. Like, perhaps you shouldn't be saying that, because that's demonic. That's the doctrine of demons. But you can't. And if you were to go to the Joel Osteen Church, whatever it's called there in Houston, and pull people aside and be like, well, hey, what do you think about this? Like, what do you, I mean, doesn't it seem a little bit weird that again, Joel Osteen, keep wearing nice suits, man. I think you should do that. If you have the means, I think you should buy nice suits and wear them. But when you go up on stage and say, you see this nice suit, everybody, God gave me this because he likes me better than he likes you. And if you do what I tell you to do, then God will like you the same way that he likes me. See how that works? It's like that's the thing. And if you bring people to that place and say, do you see what he's doing? Can you see it? Can you see how that's wrong? They will say, you must not speak out on against God's elect. And now you're in the cult. You're in the cult where you can't see past it. It's the exact same thing when Hillary Clinton goes on TV and says, oh, those two black people, they all look the same, don't they? Right? Which is like one of the most racist things that you possibly could say. Right? Even I, who makes jokes about other races, right? I'll tell racist jokes because they're hilarious. Even I know you can't say, if you're a white person, you cannot say that and not have some sort of repercussion. She goes on national television and says, oh, those two black people, they all look the same, don't they? And you bring that up to leftists and you say, now look at what she just did. Listen to how racist that is. And you're the people who are always talking about racism. Don't you see how racist that is? And they'll say, oh, well, no, I mean, obviously the context and the blah, 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 blah. It's like, whoa. Now you're in the cult. Now you have cognitive dissonance. You know what I mean? Like you take in the knowledge that's contrary to what you already believe, and your brain just wholesale rejects it because it doesn't fit in your head. But Hillary Clinton's up there. Hillary Clinton's up there talking about, I've got hot sauce in my purse. You bring that up to people and it's like, well, I mean, maybe she does. Right? You bring up the fact that there's like, is it over 56 people who have worked for the Clintons have died like crazy mysteriously. And they'll say, well, they've never been charged. It's like, ugh. If you're right, you're absolutely right. They've never been charged, but you have nothing. Robert Byrd was, I believe he was Speaker of the House at one point, or no, whoever is under Speaker of the House. He was like third or fourth in line to be the President of the United States. If the President and the Vice President and the Speaker of the House at the time, I believe, if my recollection is correct, if those three people had died, right, Obama, Biden, and then whoever was Speaker of the House, Robert Byrd would have been the President of the United States. Robert Byrd was in the effing KKK, for real. Like, if it wasn't for Robert Byrd, I would think that the KKK was just like some made-up thing, like the Illuminati or whatever. But no, he was like the Grand Dragon or whatever. There's a picture of him wearing his Ku Klux Klan like robe and wearing his little funny pointy hat, and he's got a big smile on his, like, he was literally in the KKK, and there's pictures, and he was happy about it. And it was recent. Like, I mean, he's been dead for a while, but like recent in terms of like from when he died, when he was, a living senator. It was recent. And you bring that up to Democrats, and they're like, well, no, he apologized for all that. So obviously. So that's all it takes is an apology? So if Donald Trump comes out and says, you know what, I shouldn't have said grab him by the pussy. Sorry about that. You're going to let it go? This guy was literally in the Ku Klux Klan. Do you know what the Ku Klux Klan, like their whole meat and potatoes is? Like their whole thing? You know what their whole thing is? We don't like black people. That's the Klan. That's their whole thing. And Robert Byrd was one of them, and he was like third or fourth in line to be the President of the United States. Had a whole bunch of, a whole series of tragedies happen. You bring that up to leftists, and there's just no room in their mind. Oh, he apologized. He said he was sorry. Sorry. He spent his whole life. He was the head of that organization. It's like, if you want to be the head of the CIA, you have to work your whole life in the CIA. If you want to be the commandant of the Marine Corps, you have to spend your whole life in the Marine Corps. And if you want to be the head of the Ku Klux Klan, you have to love it and spend your whole life doing it. That's what I'm saying. Is like when you talk to these leftists, it's like it's not it. The most bizarre part of it is like when you bring these things up, people can't. They just can't let it in. Okay, so you dummies. By the way, again, if you want to come on my show and discuss it with me, I'll be happy to have you, and I won't insult you. I'm going to insult you today because these comments are baffling to me. Like, so you just didn't listen to what I was saying. You just didn't hear anything. All you heard was I was saying something. I was saying something about your cult leader, and you didn't like it, and so you decided to write to a complete stranger and say a bunch of weird shit. Okay. Well, you're welcome to come on the show. And by the way, there will be no cussing, there will be no yelling, there will be no insulting on either side. There will be no talking over one another. Right? And if you try to do that, I will edit you. So think about that. If you have an actual point that you would like to make, if you want to correct something that I said, unlike you, the long story saying, oh, you say he's hoarding money. No, I didn't. You go to the place and you write back to me. You go to the timer on the video where I said he was hoarding money. And send me that in a message. Where I said he's hoarding money. And then I'll tell you what, you find the place where I say he's hoarding money as if he's one of those TV evangelists looking to line donations into his pocket. You find the place where I said that, and I will apologize. I'll do a whole show apologizing to you and kissing your ass, the long story. Find the place where I said hoarding. Your whole thing is bullshit. Anyways, this is the problem. This is one of the things that I'm seeing in just the world at large is, look, there's a need in everybody to have a leader. Even the guys at the very top, guys like Warren Buffett, for example, he has mentors. Like Charlie Munger, who's actually kind of under him, he's one of his mentors. Anthony Robbins has a mentor. You know what I mean? Like people, that's a need that is in all of us. And that's a need that should be fed. If you don't have a mentor, you should get one, right? Maybe it's somebody who can just meet with you for 10 minutes once a month, anything. Because we all have a need within us for that relationship. We need somebody that knows more than we do about a particular thing to instruct us on that thing. The problem is that can turn into very cult-like behavior very quickly. And it affects both the congregants and it affects the person themselves. That's how you get a Joel Osteen. That's how you get a Creflo Dollar. That's how you get a Jim Jones. That's how people like Jack Dorsey of Twitter can go on television and say, oh, we had to give Alex Jones a timeout. He literally said that like he's a parent. That's what happens when you no longer hold yourself accountable to other people or hold yourself accountable to the standards that you once, you know what I mean? Like, okay, again, if Jordan Peterson wants to charge $300 or $500 or whatever it is he's charging to shake his hand, that's fine. It's fine. But where do you think that's going? Do you think that there's still going to be broken 21-year-old men who just got married and had a baby and are making $35,000 a year? You think that guy can afford to go shake his hand? Do you think that guy can afford to spend $1,000 or $500 or $200 to go hear Jordan B. Peterson speak? You think he can afford that? Or does he have to, like the one guy said, does he have to just watch it on YouTube? Right? What do you think? What do you think that leads to? as for Jordan Peterson? What do you think how do you think that's going to affect his life? If all of a sudden people stop showing up because they can't afford it, and then all of his stuff just has to go onto YouTube, and then the fame dies out, and people stop listening to him altogether, and then it's on to somebody else. It's on to some other charlatan like Ty Lopez, where people look at it and it's like, oh my God, this guy's telling me I can be rich and I can be fulfilled. Or Sam Harris is telling me it's all meaningless anyways, man. Just try to practice meditation and try not to kill yourself. There's dangerous things. There's dangerous parts. When you start buying your own bullshit, you're a danger to yourself and others. And I'm making the point now because that's what this show is about. It's chronicling these times and looking at it, approaching the spiritual nature of these things using a pragmatic approach. So I ask you, you group of dumbasses, what do you think that is in store? What do you think the next 2 years of Jordan B. Peterson's life is going to look like, and what kind of man do you think he's going to be in 2 years? Because the fame and the money is a brand new thing to him. How do you think it's affecting him? Right? How do you think that when you're charging hundreds of dollars to come up and shake your hand, how do you think that will affect the audience from an economic standpoint over the long term? Do you think more people are going to be coming to pay that $300, like more poor people, or do you think more rich people are going to do it? And who do you think needs to hear the message more? Do the rich people, do the people who have $500 disposable income, do you think they need to hear it more, or do you think that the 19-year-old kid whose girlfriend is 8 months pregnant, do you think he needs to shake Jordan B. Peterson's hand? Who is it more important to shake Jordan Peterson's hand? Whose life is going to be affected more? That's a perfect example, actually. Take the 19-year-old kid, doesn't have any money, who's just out of trade school, right? He's making a living, he's making it, but he doesn't have $300. It's a lot of damn money. You know, when you're 19, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for me right now. Mister, you want to make jokes about the empty shelves? Yeah, it's a lot of money. Whose life is going to be better off? Jordan Peterson, right, getting his $300 because some guy that makes 60 grand a year and he's caught up on his mortgage, he's got $500 or $300 or whatever. He goes and he gives it to Jordan B. Peterson, shakes his hand, gets a selfie. Jordan Peterson's life is better off because now he's $300 richer. And he got to shake this dude's hand and meet him for 10 seconds. Now, in that case, Jordan Peterson's life is better off. And so is the other guy. Now, you take the 19-year-old kid. He doesn't have any money. He goes to a show because his rich uncle bought him some tickets to go see Jordan B. Peterson. He's inspired. He's like, yeah, man, I do need to clean my room. Yeah, man, I do need to slay the dragon. Yeah, man, I do remember my grandmother praying for me in Jesus' name. I've been wanting to read the Bible again. Like, maybe I should go do that. Man, I would really like to go shake this man's hand. This guy's a freaking stud. He's a hero. He goes up. He doesn't have any money. And they say, sorry, kid. It's $300. Man, if you want to shake this dude's hand, if you want to meet this dude's a big shot. No, you got to have $300. And that kid's like, well, I don't have $300. And you're kind of an asshole for charging me $300 to shake your hand. Who the fuck are you? Pardon the language there, everybody. Sorry about that. I got to quit cussing. I'm sorry about that. He goes home and he's all butthurt because it's like, man, I think this guy's like, I think this guy, you know what I mean? Who's better off? Or better yet, let's say he does have he did, cobble together $300. And it was all the money that he had. And he goes up and he gives that money to Jordan B. Peterson and he shakes his hand. Jordan Peterson now has $300 and the 19-year-old kid does not have $300, but he has a memory of shaking Jordan B. Peterson's hand. Whose life is better off in that example? Who won? Whose life is altered for the better in that scenario? You think it's that kid? He needed that $300 for formula and prenatal vitamins. You see what I'm saying? It's different if it's Stefan Molyneux doing that. Stefan Molyneux's not out there encouraging people to get back into their Christian roots and read their Bible. It's different. The message is completely different. Anthony Robbins is not up there preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's different. The message is different. And you guy who wrote me is like, oh, he's an atheist. That's all you need to know. Okay, number one, don't tell me what I need. All right. Number two, you have no proof, sir. You give me the proof. You show me. Because I've listened to just about everything that Peterson has said. He talks a great deal about the Bible and his affection for it. Anyways, so I just, I thought it was hilarious. All these people writing in this cult-like, oh, don't say anything against this person that we've elevated. It's like, dude, stop elevating people and understand everybody is flawed. Everybody. You are flawed. Jordan Peterson is flawed. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, General Mattis, everybody has flaws. And the more you keep elevating these people, the more people like Hillary Clinton get away with what they get away with, because people just elevate them and they're like, no, you can't say anything bad about them because then my whole world will fall apart. Oh, you're weak. Everybody's flawed. There's no such thing as a good man, except for Jesus Christ. Everybody else that you think is a good man is a bad person. Martin Luther King Jr., he was a poon hound. That's not what we remember. We remember him for his good work. But he was still a bad guy. King David murdered people, plural. Murdered people. He was a bad guy, but he did some good stuff. Everybody's flawed, man. Gandhi was a terrible guy. Martin Luther. The whole reason the Protestant Reformation happened is because of one guy, Martin Luther. Changed the world, saved the world from a Catholic Church that was, had once again at that point in history was gone really bad, and they were killing people and taxing the hell out of people. And finally, Martin Luther stands up and says, "You know what? Enough." And the Protestant Reformation happened because of that. He saved the world. He saved the world. And guess what? Vicious anti-Semite. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as a good man. There's people that are capable of good things, but you people, you elevate Jordan Peterson like you're a cult member, right? Jordan Peterson has done great work, but he's just like me. He's just like you. He's rotten. Just like you. Just like me. Think about that. And if you want to support the show and fill these empty things, these empty shelves, please do. I need the money. It costs money to do this. It costs money to get I want to get a green screen, a microphone so the audio doesn't suck so bad, like all those things. It costs money and I don't have it. If you want to support the show, you can go on to archadvocate.com and I appreciate it. Right? Like you guys that help out. I mentioned some of you guys yesterday. Matthew Pink got a kick out of me talking about him on the podcast, and Todd Milligan and Nelly. I wanted to talk about the Proud Boys, but I'm not going to. I'll do that tomorrow. You guys that help out, there's no show without you guys. And this is the thing, I'm faithful. That's all I got to do. I got to be faithful to improving the show, doing the show, improving it, correcting my mistakes when I make them, If I say something wrong, that's fine too. If you want to correct me, then I will receive correction. Don't write in saying that I said things that I didn't say though, because then we're gonna have a real hard time getting past that. If you want to support the show, you can become a monthly Patreon member at arch-advocate.com, or you can do PayPal. A lot of people do that. Ian Sullivan, otherwise known as Bad Wolf, you can do that. Anybody, if you want to support the show, listen, support the things you like, or else they go away. That's just how that works. Appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you tomorrow.